the 13th century, a time of castles, kings, and chivalry, but also a time of deep religious fervor. This fervor ignited the Crusades, holy wars sanctioned by the Pope, the goal to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control. The Crusades were brutal campaigns marked by bloodshed. Crusaders, driven by faith, engaged in acts of cruelty. Religious intolerance led to massacres on both sides. Despite the violence, the Crusades opened trade routes to the east. They exposed Europeans to different cultures and rediscovered ancient texts. This rediscovery fueled the Renaissance. The Crusades left a legacy of mistrust between Christianity and Islam. Amidst the brutality, stories of courage and sacrifice emerged. The Children's Crusade was a desperate attempt to recapture the Holy Land. The Children's Crusade of 1212 stands out as one of the most perplexing events in medieval history. Thousands of children, some as young as 6, embarked on a perilous journey to the Holy Land. The very notion of children unarmed and unprepared marching towards war seems unfathomable today. Yet historical accounts suggest it happened. The Children's Crusade serves as a stark reminder of the power of belief. It also highlights the vulnerability of innocence in a world driven by darker forces. The year 1212 dawned with a mix of hope and despair in Europe. The Holy Land remained under Muslim control. Previous crusades had ended in failure. The message of the Children's Crusade offered a glimmer of hope. The idea that children could succeed where armies had failed resonated deeply. To grasp the Children's Crusade, we must step back into their world. Imagine Europe in the 13th century, a place both familiar and profoundly different. Life expectancy was short, often brutal. The Catholic Church was the bedrock of society. Tales of heroism and holy war captured imaginations. This potent mix of faith, fear, and fervor created fertile ground for the Children's Crusade. The 13th century was a time of intense religious feeling. People believed in the power of prayer and miracles. This fervent piety had a darker side, with fear of damnation looming large. Apocalyptic prophecies circulated widely, predicting the end of the world. Some believed only the innocent could reclaim the Holy Land. The Children's Crusade becomes less baffling, a tragic manifestation of a world consumed by faith and fear. The failure of previous crusades weighed heavily on Christian Europe. Jerusalem remained elusive, bringing fresh waves of disappointment. The common people, bearing the brunt of poverty, looked for signs of hope. Into this void stepped young boys like Nicholas of Cologne and Stephen of Cloyes. Their message resonated with the masses, offering a vision of redemption through innocence. The Children's Crusade was a testament to the power of belief to mobilize the masses. The Children's Crusade was fueled by more than just religious fervor. Visions and prophecies played a significant role in inspiring these young crusaders. Nicholas of Cologne claimed to have received divine instructions. The children, raised on tales of saints and miracles, were primed to believe in divine revelation. The belief that God was calling them gave their journey a sense of purpose. The Children's Crusade becomes a poignant reminder of the human capacity for belief. The Children's Crusade itself fades into the mists of time, but its echoes reverberate through history. The image of innocent children marching to their fate has captivated artists and thinkers for centuries. Some see it as a cautionary tale of religious fanaticism. Others find a tragic beauty in their unwavering belief. The Children's Crusade raises questions about responsibility and the limits of faith. It serves as a potent reminder of the power of belief to shape human destiny. The Children's Crusade, though spontaneous, was not without its leaders. Two young boys, Nicholas of Cologne and Stephen of Cloyes, captured the imaginations of the masses. They were children themselves, yet possessed of a charisma that transcended their age. Nicholas from Germany was eloquent and drew crowds. Stephen from France remains an enigma. Their emergence speaks volumes about the power of belief in times of hardship. Nicholas of Cologne, though just a boy, commanded attention. He spoke of visions and divine instructions to lead a crusade of children. His message, God favored the innocent, and through their prayers, Jerusalem would be reclaimed. Nicholas's charisma inspired thousands to follow him. His story is a testament to the power of belief to inspire and mobilize. Nicholas became a symbol of hope, a vessel for a society seeking salvation. Compared to Nicholas, Stephen of Cloyes remains a more elusive figure. Despite this, Stephen's role in the Children's Crusade was significant. He claimed to have received divine instructions urging him to lead a crusade of children. Stephen's movement attracted thousands, particularly in poorer regions of France. His message resonated with a population grappling with hardship. Stephen remains an enigma, a reminder of the power of charismatic leadership. The emergence of Nicholas and Stephen highlights the power of belief. They were children, yet inspired a movement that transcended boundaries. Their message resonated deeply in a world steeped in faith. The children who followed them believed they were answering a divine call. This unwavering faith was the driving force behind the Children's Crusade. Spring 1212. Across Europe, a strange pilgrimage was underway. No seasoned knights, but children, thousands strong, answered a call. From sleepy villages and bustling towns they came, sons and daughters of farmers, artisans, even nobles. Their eyes shone with conviction. They marched to the murmur of prayers, hymns echoing. Leaders, boys barely older, urged them onward. God's will, not human strength, would deliver Jerusalem, pure of heart, chosen instruments of divine will. They walked, meager belongings bundled in cloaks. Fresh blisters, gnawing hunger, yet spirits remained high. A spectacle that drew stares, yet onward they pressed. The initial euphoria of the journey, fueled by religious fervor and adventure, soon gave way to grim realities. Days stretched into weeks, weeks into months, facing relentless sun, biting cold and constant hunger. Songs became fainter, replaced by shuffling feet and sobs. Sickness thinned their ranks, but they marched onward, refusing to accept defeat. Summer beat down on the weary travelers. The sun, a relentless god, baked the earth, turning the road into a ribbon of dust that choked their lungs and parched their throats. Water, scarce and often foul, became a precious commodity, fought over, hoarded and mourned when gone. Skin, burned and blistered, offered little protection from the elements. Feet, wrapped in rags or hardened by constant walking, cracked and bled. Each step a torment, yet still they walked, their young bodies pushed beyond the limits of endurance. The adults who had joined the procession, initially drawn by piety or the promise of profit, began to desert in droves. The reality of the situation, the sheer scale of suffering, proved too much for many. These children, they realized, were not marching to a divine victory, but to a slow, agonizing defeat. Yet even as their ranks thinned, the children's faith, though tested, did not entirely break. They prayed for rain, for deliverance, for a miracle to ease their suffering. Stories circulated, a shared crust of bread miraculously multiplying, a cool spring bubbling forth from parched earth. Tales whispered and clung to as proof that God had not abandoned them. Hope, though battered, flickered on, a fragile flame in the face of an increasingly bleak reality. Section 4. Crossing the Alps, a perilous passage. The Alps, a towering barrier of rock and ice, stood between the children and their destination. For seasoned travelers, the crossing was fraught with danger. For this ragtag band of children, weakened by hunger and exhaustion, it became a nightmare. The paths, narrow and treacherous, wound their way up through the forests of dark pines and across meadows carpeted with wildflowers. The air grew thin, each breath a struggle. The cold, a constant companion, seeped into their bones, sapping their strength. Many, weakened by their long journey, succumbed to the elements. They collapsed by the roadside, their bodies swallowed by the unforgiving landscape. Landslides, triggered by summer storms, buried scores beneath tons of rock and ice, their cries for help swallowed by the roar of nature's fury. Those who pressed on did so with a grim determination. They helped each other, sharing what little food and water they had, pulling each other up treacherous slopes, their youthful camaraderie a beacon in the face of overwhelming adversity. They clung to the belief that this suffering, this sacrifice, would find favor in God's eyes, that their ordeal was a test of faith they had to endure to reach the holy city. Section 5. Predators and Protectors, the Perils of the Road. The road to the Holy Land was a trial of endurance and human cruelty. Word of the Children's Crusade spread, attracting aid and predators. Some met them with kindness, offering food and shelter, but many faced exploitation and cruelty. Rumors spread of children sold into slavery. The Children's Crusade illustrated humanity's compassion and cruelty. Section 6. To the Sea. A journey's end, a new beginning. Months after they had set out, the surviving children of the Crusade reached the Mediterranean Sea. The sight of that vast expanse of blue must have evoked a mix of awe and trepidation. This was the sea that separated them from the Holy Land, yet how to cross it? They had no ships, no money, only their unwavering faith. Some resigned themselves to their fate. They settled in port cities, finding what work they could. Others refused to give up, praying for a miracle. The reality, however, was far less miraculous. Merchants offered passage, but at a price, their freedom. Many children accepted these offers, trading one form of servitude for another. The journey to the sea was not the end of their story. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter. The Mediterranean shimmered, a vast expanse of blue under the relentless summer sun. For the children who had traversed mountains and endured hardship beyond measure, its shores should have marked a moment of triumph, the final hurdle before reaching the Holy Land. Instead, it became a place of heartbreak, a cruel testament to the limits of faith and the ruthlessness of the world. Word had spread through the bustling port cities, Marseille, Genoa, Pisa, of this strange army of children, their eyes fixed on Jerusalem, their pockets empty. Amongst the merchants, sailors, and opportunists drawn to these hubs of commerce, a darker element saw an opportunity. These were men who traded not in spices or silks, but in human misery. Slavers, their hearts hardened by greed, saw in the children a commodity to be bought, sold, and discarded. They descended upon the makeshift camps, their words dripping with honeyed promises of safe passage, of a swift journey to the Holy Land. Many children, worn down by their ordeal, their naivete, a fragile shield against the world's harsh realities, clung to these promises. They boarded ships, their numbers swelling the holds of vessels bound not for the shores of salvation, but for the slave markets of North Africa and beyond. The whispers started even as the children boarded the ships. Unease rippled through the ranks, a stark contrast to the hymns and prayers that had once marked their journey. The sailors, their faces hardened by years at sea, their language rough and unfamiliar, eyed the children with a mixture of amusement and disdain. Gone were the tales of divine intervention, of seas parting and angels guiding their way. The reality was the stench of salt and sweat, the creaking of timbers, the ever-present fear that gnawed at their courage. Some captains, true to their word, set sail eastward, but the journey was fraught with peril. Storms, a fury of wind and water, tossed the overloaded ships like toys, sending many to watery graves. Disease, spreading through the cramped, unsanitary holds, claimed countless more, their frail bodies ill-equipped to withstand the rigors of a sea voyage. Those who survived the journey often found themselves not in the Holy Land, but in a strange and hostile land. Sold into slavery, their innocence stripped away, they were forced to toil under a merciless sun, their dreams of holy conquest replaced by the brutal realities of survival. The exact fate of many children who embarked on the Children's Crusade remains shrouded in mystery. The historical record, fragmented and often contradictory, offers glimpses of their ordeal, but no definitive answers. Their stories, passed down through generations, became interwoven with folklore. A cautionary tale whispered around hearths and in hushed tones. Some accounts tell of children sold into slavery in Alexandria, Tunis, and other North African ports. Forced to convert to Islam, their names changed, their past lives erased. They became absorbed into a culture vastly different from their own. Others whisper of children disappearing without a trace, their ships vanishing into the vastness of the sea, victims of storms, piracy, or the cruel indifference of nature. Their names, once etched in the hearts of families and communities, were lost to time. Their memories kept alive only in the collective grief of those left behind. The Children's Crusade, intended as a triumph of faith, became a testament to its fragility. The innocence that was meant to be their shield proved no match for the harsh realities of the world. Their dreams of holy conquest swallowed by the sea and the silence that followed. Not all the children who embarked on the crusade fell prey to the slavers or the perils of the sea. Some, their numbers dwindling with each passing mile, managed to reach the shores of the Holy Land. But their arrival, far from being met with open arms and pronouncements of divine favor, was met with a cold reception, their youthful idealism colliding with the harsh realities of geopolitics. The Crusader states, established in the wake of previous crusades, were locked in a precarious struggle for survival against powerful Muslim adversaries. The arrival of thousands of children, unarmed, untrained, and ill-equipped for the realities of life in the Holy Land, was more of a burden than a blessing. The children, expecting to be greeted as liberators, as instruments of God's will, found themselves regarded as a liability. They were seen as mouths to feed, bodies to clothe, a drain on resources already stretched thin by constant warfare. Their presence, far from inspiring a renewed fervor for the crusade, highlighted the futility of their quest. The Holy City, once a beacon of hope, now stood as a stark reminder of the gulf between their youthful idealism and the grim realities of the world. News of the Children's Crusade, at first dismissed as the ramblings of overzealous priests, eventually reached the highest echelons of power in Christendom. Pope Innocent III, the pontiff who had launched the ill-fated Fourth Crusade just a few years prior, faced a dilemma: how to respond to this unprecedented event, this mass movement of children driven by a potent mix of faith and naivete. On one hand, the children's piety, their willingness to sacrifice everything for the sake of the Holy Land, presented a powerful propaganda opportunity. Their journey, however misguided, could be spun as a testament to the enduring power of faith, a sign that God's favor still rested upon Christendom. On the other hand, the Pope was acutely aware of the dangers faced by these children. Reports filtering back from the Mediterranean spoke of shipwreck, slavery, and exploitation. To endorse their crusade outright would be to condone a venture that had already claimed the lives of countless innocents. Caught between political expediency and moral obligation, the Pope opted for a cautious approach. He praised the children's piety, but stopped short of endorsing their crusade. He urged them to return home, reminding them that their duty lay in obedience to their parents and the Church. At the Children's Crusade, though a spectacular failure in terms of its stated goal, the liberation of Jerusalem, had a profound and lasting impact on the psyche of medieval Europe. The image of thousands of children marching to their fate, their innocence shattered against the harsh realities of the world, became a powerful symbol of the limits of faith and the dangers of unchecked religious zeal. For those who had witnessed the children's departure, their faces shining with hope, their voices raised in song, the news of their fate came as a crushing blow. The belief that God would protect the innocent, that their piety would be rewarded, was shaken to its core. The Children's Crusade marked a turning point in the popular perception of the Crusades. What had once been seen as a holy endeavor, a righteous war sanctioned by God, began to be viewed with increasing skepticism. The unfulfilled promises, the mass graves, the tales of slavery and exploitation planted the seeds of doubt. The Children's Crusade, in its tragic denouement, exposed the human cost of religious conflict and the danger of blind faith. The Children's Crusade offers a unique window into the medieval worldview. It's easy to dismiss it as an anomaly, but it reflects the hopes, fears, and beliefs of medieval society. The 13th century was an era of intense religious fervor. The Catholic Church shaped spiritual beliefs, social norms, and political structures. The idea of a crusade held immense power. The Children's Crusade demonstrates the depth of this religious zeal. The promise of salvation outweighed the risks involved. These children were products of their time, shaped by a vastly different worldview. By studying their story, we gain a deeper understanding of the medieval mind. The Children's Crusade had a profound impact on the way childhood was perceived in the centuries that followed. Prior to the Crusade, children were often seen as miniature adults, shaped by survival. The Crusade highlighted the vulnerability of children. Thousands of innocents, lured by false promises, sparked outrage and a shift in attitudes. Seeds were sown for a nuanced understanding of children needing protection and guidance. The Children's Crusade, though a historical event shrouded in the mists of time, has had a lasting impact on the human imagination. Its themes of faith, innocence, betrayal, and the enduring power of belief have resonated through the centuries, inspiring countless works of art, literature, and music. From medieval chronicles to modern novels, from grand operas to poignant folk songs, the story of the children's journey has been told and retold, each generation finding new meaning in their sacrifice and seeking answers to the enduring questions their story raises. Artists, writers, and composers have been drawn to the Crusade's stark contrasts, the innocence of childhood set against the brutality of the world, the unwavering faith juxtaposed with the cynicism of those who exploited it. The children's journey becomes a metaphor for the human condition itself, a journey fraught with peril, where hope and despair walk hand in hand. The Children's Crusade, in its tragic beauty, continues to captivate our imaginations, forcing us to confront the complexities of faith, the fragility of innocence, and the enduring power of stories to transcend time and connect us to the shared experiences of humanity. The Children's Crusade stands as a stark reminder of the enduring power of belief to shape human destiny, for better or for worse. Driven by religious fervor and naive conviction, the children embarked on a journey that defied logic and reason. Their story highlights a fundamental truth about belief as a powerful motivator, inspiring both selflessness and folly. It also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind faith, especially when manipulated by those in power. The children were victims of a system that valued obedience over critical thinking. The lessons of the Children's Crusade remain relevant today. In an age of misinformation, the story reminds us of the importance of critical thinking and questioning authority. The Children's Crusade, though a tragedy, offers a glimmer of hope. The fact that their story continues to be told suggests we have not forgotten its lessons. It reminds us that even in dark times, the human spirit retains its capacity for critical reflection and learning. Centuries have passed since that fateful spring when thousands of children, their hearts ablaze with faith, embarked on a journey to reclaim the Holy Land. The echoes of their hymns have long faded, their makeshift banners lost to time. Yet the Children's Crusade refuses to be relegated to the dusty annals of history. Its shadow stretches across the centuries, a stark reminder of the enduring power of belief and the fragility of innocence. The very notion of children, some as young as 6, marching off to war armed only with faith, seems unfathomable to the modern mind. It forces us to confront a world where faith shaped every aspect of life. The Children's Crusade, in its tragic denouement, shattered the illusion of a divinely ordained victory. The Children's Crusade teaches us about the evolving nature of faith. In the 13th century, faith was dictated by the Catholic Church. The children saw the crusade as a divine calling. The tragic outcome exposed the limitations of blind faith. Their suffering forced people to confront the human cost of unquestioning obedience. Doubt was sown in the pronouncements of those who claimed to speak for God. The centuries that followed saw a shift in faith, emphasizing individual conscience and critical thinking. Faith became more personal and nuanced, subject to interpretation and debate. The Children's Crusade contributed to this evolution of faith. The Children's Crusade, like a half-remembered dream, haunts history, its details obscured by time, its motives endlessly debated. Did these children truly believe they could conquer the Holy Land with faith? Were they manipulated by cynical adults, or driven by religious fervor and social unrest? The historical record offers no easy answers. Contemporary accounts paint a confusing picture. Later interpretations add complexity. The Children's Crusade raises enduring questions, challenging our understanding of the past. The Children's Crusade, though a tragedy, carries a timeless message that transcends time, culture, and belief. It speaks of protecting innocence, questioning authority, and tempering faith with reason. Their journey reminds us of youth's vulnerability. We must create a world where children are cherished and protected. The Crusade warns against blind faith and obedience. It reminds us to think critically and stand up for what is right. Even in loss, there's hope. The human spirit strives for a better future.